bringing you part 2 of detailed leaked review that includes leaked script pages as well. Keep it in mind that most of the events mentioned in this review have already been confirmed by either preview promos or trailers, so if you don't want anything spoiled, it's time for you to close this video. Before I start, let me just highlight that this might be an early version of the script, meaning that some details might have been changed in the process. Yesterday's video, or should I say first half of the 5th episode, ended with a huge meeting in the main hall in the castle of Dragonstone. So far, this meeting resulted with Jon Snow, Davos and Jorah deciding to go on a mission beyond the wall to catch a white in order to prove to Cersei and other lords of Westeros that the danger is real. However, Varys pointed out that any evidence they find will be useless unless Cersei grants them an audience in the first place and is somehow prevented from murdering them all during mentioned audience. Tyrion knows this and has a proposition. Tyrion says, "Let me arrange a meeting with my brother Jaime, the only person to whom my sister will listen." Dan is a bit suspicious about it, but Tyrion assures that that's the only way. Davos says he can smuggle Tyrion into King's Landing before he leaves with Jon and others on a mission beyond the wall, but if the Gold Cloaks recognize the most famous dwarf in the world, well, Davos isn't much of a fighter. Danny asks what happens if this whole plan about convincing Cersei and other lords in the Night King's existence fails, on which either Tyrion or Jon responds with, "We hope 100,000 dead men don't come to slaughter us until we're done slaughtering each other." Old Town is next. A tired and frustrated Samwell is working all night on his punishment homework. Gilly is supposedly helping him and is reading aloud all the details she is finding in the pages of these documents, asking questions in the process. Gilly finds the personal diary of High Septon Maynard, who held office during the reign of the Mad King. The man kept notes about every detail of his life, every meal he ate, his various appointments and encounters, even moments important or not. While Sam starts questioning why he even came to the Citadel in the first place, is questioning his use to Jon, Gilly finds something of the huge importance. Gilly says, "Oh, there's something about a Stark, Lyanna Stark." Now Sam is very intrigued. He takes the book from her and reads. Maynard's entry details that High Septon was compelled by Crown Prince Rhaegar, the Mad King's son and heir, to secretly annul his marriage to Elia Martell. Then as the War of the Usurper began, he traveled to Dorne to marry Rhaegar and Lyanna in a secret ceremony. In the previous leaked review from some other source, there was stated that Gilly mispronounced Rhaegar's name and therefore Sam didn't even catch this important detail and didn't find out Jon's parentage. Let's hope this new leaked review will be more accurate, since I really want Sam to learn of Jon's true lineage. Later, Sam is cleaning floor when a stack of inbox Raven scrolls catches his eye. After a few boring letters, Sam sees the letter from Winterfell that was earlier sent to all parts of the Seven Kingdoms. The army of the dead is marching on the wall exactly as Sam warned it would. The Archmaester in the Citadel takes the scroll, reads, and passes it around to the other maesters. The maesters doubt in its accuracy. They have read many dire warnings of this sort. Presuming the letter is real, the Archmaester asks Sam what he would have the maesters do. Sam is excited. Finally these professors are going to listen to him. Sam says, "Westeros trusts the Citadel. All the maesters could advise all their lords to send their soldiers north to hold the wall against the Night King, while the maesters here dug through the forbidden tomes for how to defeat him." The Archmaester is considering Sam's argument. The Archmaester, however, proposes another scenario to the maesters. This latter is employed by the king in the north and the Dragon Queen to divide the south of soldiers and make conquest easier. Sam wants to argue his side further, but Archmaester cuts him short and says, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention, we'll take this into serious consideration." Sam knows he failed. As he's about to leave, the Archmaester calls out to Sam, "Heard Targaryen girl burnt your father alive. Horrible thing, horrible thing. Where's that book you were getting for me?" After hearing Maester's opinion regarding the Great War that is coming, Sam decides to grab as many books and scrolls as he can in the restricted area of the library and decided to leave Old Town for Winterfell. On Gilly's question if he is sure about leaving and not becoming Maester, Sam answers with, "I'm tired of reading about the achievements of better men." This is exact line Sam's father Randall told him back in the 6th episode of the previous season. Randall told him, "Your nose is buried in the books, spending your life reading about the achievements of better men." Back in King's Landing, Bronn gets a little bird from Tyrion sealed with a Targaryen seal. He can't help but smile, happy for Tyrion. The Red Keep looms from the midst of Blackwater Bay as Davos guides a small rowboat through the water. Tyrion jokes the last time he was here, he killed his father with a crossbow. Davos replies that the last he was there, Tyrion killed his son with wildfire, but they are on the same side. They pull the rowboat in a hidden cove near the entrance to Flea Bottom, with the Red Keep looming overhead. Tyrion goes to meet Jaime and Bronn and is surprised when Davos heads up a set of stairs asking, "You're not staying with the boat?" Davos shakes his head and says he has his own business to attend to. Tyrion manages to talk Jaime out of murdering him. Although everything Tyrion says may be true, for Jaime doesn't justify siding with the daughter of the Mad King who wants his family death. Tyrion tries to prove him wrong, stating that Dany has 3 dragons, and yet she has not attacked King's Landing because, unlike her father, she is not willing to kill thousands of innocent people. Tyrion also says that if Cersei had 3 dragons and someone else were sitting on the Iron Throne, Cersei would burn everything down. Jaime is willing to hear out Tyrion. They both know that Cersei will never bend the knee to anyone, but Tyrion briefly outlines the trouble coming from beyond the wall. Jaime is skeptical, which Tyrion respects and says, "Don't worry, they'll have proof." Tyrion continues, "Dany wants to deal with the south first. You want her to deal with the north first." Jaime asks what Tyrion is proposing. Tyrion smiles and says, "Glad you asked," which is when the scene switches to a huge warhammer being pulled from the forge. We hear Davos saying, "I'd gone to every shop, tavern or brothel and was about to give up." Now we see the blacksmith's face, Gendry. Gendry shows Davos the warhammer and says he's been practicing and he's gotten pretty good. Must be some of his father in him after all. Davos wants to know for which side Gendry intended to fight. Gendry is not sure and says they all seem pretty horrible. Davos agrees but says he's found the least horrible of them. His king might even be a great one if Gendry cares to fight for the right side. Gendry grabs his hammer and helm without a second thought and leaves with Davos. A bit later, upon having a trouble with the gold cloaks, Gendry kills both of them with his hammer, while Davos and Tyrion watch surprised from the sidelines. The 3 are then heading back to Dragonstone. In Winterfell, there's a huge meeting regarding Jon's absence. Sansa assures the lords that Jon will return soon, and until then she has everything well in hand. Few lords are saying she has done a fine job, as would be expected of Ned Stark's trueborn daughter, while Jon Snow followed his brother's course and took off with a foreign woman. Lyanna again calls out the lords, saying, "A month ago they crowned Jon, and now they're upset that he is doing his job." Arya instantly likes this little girl. Glover wants to send a raven demanding Jon's immediate return from Dragonstone, which is when Arya stands up and says, "Jon is your king and one doesn't make demands of a king, not if one intends to keep his head." Littlefinger then tries to make a conflict between the Stark sisters. A bit later, Arya follows and finds Littlefinger in conference with the Lord Glover and Lord Royce. It doesn't look like a conversation they'd want public. Finally, Arya follows Littlefinger back to his chambers and sees Maester Vulcan approach as Littlefinger is about to enter and hand him a letter. Then Littlefinger leaves his room, and as soon as Littlefinger is out of sight, Arya walks to the door, picks the lock, and sneaks into the room. She finds the letter that her sister wrote in the first season under the command of Cersei. As Arya is leaving, we see Littlefinger with his creepy smile, confirming it's all part of his game. Back to Dragonstone, Jon is getting ready to go when Davos enters with Gendry. Davos had told Gendry not to tell anyone about his parentage, but then Gendry takes a risk, steps forward and says, "Hi, I'm Robert Baratheon's son." Upon sharing quite an interesting conversation, Gendry volunteers for the mission and Jon accepts it. The scene switches on the shores of Dragonstone as Jon, Jorah, Gendry, Davos and some men prepare to go, loading the ship with food, the new dragonglass weapons, cold weather gear, etc. There are also a few scenes between Dany and Jorah as well as between Dany and Jon, saying farewell to each other. Then back at King's Landing, Cersei reveals to Jaime that she is pregnant, whereupon they are having a serious conversation regarding the baby and their brother Tyrion as well. Cersei doesn't believe the ridiculous raven they just got from Winterfell about the army of the dead. Jaime tells her he met with Tyrion. Cersei surprises him by already knowing about it and asks him if he really thinks anyone bearing news can enter this city without her knowing. Cersei also asks if he really thinks it's wise to conspire with her enemies behind her back. Jaime gives Cersei a note from the meeting which we didn't hear in the Tyrion scene. They can meet in the Dragon Pit. They will have home court advantage, then he will not bring a large amount of troops. He says that Tyrion plans to show absolute proof of the threat beyond the wall, and if Cersei still is not convinced, everyone just resumes the war. Jaime is fully prepared for a long, torturous fight to persuade Cersei, but she shocks him by quickly agreeing. The episode ends with Jon leading his group that contains of Jorah, Gendry, Tormund, the Hound, Beric, Thoros and a few more members of the Brotherhood beyond the wall to catch a fight. All of them met at Eastwatch and agreed to go beyond the wall under Jon's leadership to help him on his mission. There you have it guys, part 2 of detailed review for the 5th episode that seems to be quite accurate.